All right, everybody. This is podcast episode number 9, take 2. Gary and I have just sat here for an hour and 20 minutes and had a great conversation, and we didn't hit the record button.
I will take the blame for that one. I was supposed to be recording, and I hit the button. I just didn't make sure it came on like a dummy, and we both noticed as we ended it and went, hey, there was no record. I never saw the record light when we were going, and I went, oh, shit. And it was I'm going to say, since you guys aren't going to hear any of it, it was our best material by far. It was brilliant.
It was gold. It would have got us nominated for a Webby or whatever you call the podcast awards. It was off the charts good.
And we scripted none of it. We just rolled. We didn't even have our topic until basically I hit the record button. We were freewheeling. I was all amped up, pissed off. I was throwing some rants out there. And Chambers was the opposition, trying to talk me off the cliff. It was great. Recorded absolutely none of it. The only person who heard it was my dog. And that was about it. Yeah.
Two people. Of course, Murphy's snoring right now, so he didn't hear anything. And my wife, she's trying to sleep, and we're talking with her in the other bedroom sleeping, so she probably heard it all too. She's probably just pissed. She's like,
well, and she's going, I had to listen to all that crap and you didn't record it. I just hope
come after you.
Well, yeah.
I'm pretty clear because I was not in charge of the record button. I wasn't going to sell you out, but you sold yourself out. I was not in charge of that. But I could have looked to see if it was recording.
I was so pissed off. I couldn't because we had just gone off. Well, just to go back to it, now we're going to, you know what, you're going to get the cliff notes of this one because we don't have the energy. It's midnight his time, 9:15 my time, so 12:15 his time. There ain't going to be as much energy in this one. My Adderall has worn off for the day. So, hey, we didn't get into that. Gosh, that's one topic we didn't get into. What we're talking about whether college athletes should be paid or not, because it comes up almost every year now.
Well, it started out, I'm watching the NCAA
tournament. Yeah.
And, Kentucky's playing and got beat today on the last second shot by North Carolina. So that kind of devastated me. Luckily, one of the good things about being older is I don't give a shit as much anymore. So I've already rolled past it, because life is there. I remember when I was younger, if they did, like when Leitner hit the shot against Kentucky back in 92, that devastated me for years. This shot was just as much a dagger today, but I'll forget who this guy is next week. Once Carolina is out of the tournament, once they probably win it and they're out, I won't even remember the guy's name that hit the shot against us this year.
Well, I wonder if there's two pieces to that. Because you're right. I used to hate go to school. If my team lost and I had to go to school the next day and face the BS from my buddies who either liked the other team, who beat my team, I used to just be heartbroken, because I used to look forward to wearing my jersey, and I'm a Cowboys fan and used to wear my Cowboys jersey and be all proud. And I had buddies who were Rams fans back when the Rams Cowboys and then the Cowboys 49ers. And I just remember being that, but I wonder if it's partly too, because it's different. It's a different game now. The players are more transient. Back then, Leitner played all 4 years. Grant Hill played 3, or did he play all 4?
Leitner got 4 years to build up the level of hate that people hate him.
Did you ever watch the 30 for 30 or whatever? Oh my!
That was awesome.
I never realized how bad Leitner got it. I mean, I knew he was hated. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize the viciousness of the hate that guy went through. And he admitted, he brought it on himself. He flat said, hey, I was a jerk. I was an asshole. And, but he took a lot. But I think those shots, you're right. I don't really remember. And there's been some big shots over probably the last 10 years in the tournament, some big games. I couldn't tell you the players. You're right. I don't know if it's getting older or that the sport, like I said again, has come so transient that the players are in and out. The coaches change schools way more frequently than they used to.
Yeah.
College coaches stuck around pretty much when I was growing up, a lot of times for a lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
If they were winning and they were a good coach, even the not so good ones, they coached throughout, at least 10 years. Now you're lucky if you get a coach to stick around 2 or 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if it's partly that as well. You're right. You know what? I don't remember the kid's name. You're right.
Well, I remember the kid's name. It's May. So
Hey, I had Gray in my head. I had Gray.
Though, and this kid, Leitner, was the person on Duke's team. This is a role player that barely plays. He had the game of his life today. Averaged 5 points a game, and I think he ended up with 16 this game. Shot 50% free throw for the year. I think he hit them all that he shot in this game. So, I mean, he goes off and has a career game and then hits the winning shot. You got to give it up. One, you got to give it up for the kid.
Hey, he probably took an extra hit of Adderall, was hyper-focused, and was – no, kidding. Totally
it was funny.
No hate mail.
Exactly. But he even said after the game, said, how did you hit such a pressure shot? He goes, man, it was just like practice. They came down, they threw me the ball, I was open, I shot it, went in. So give props to that guy, man. Monk, who is going to be a phenomenal NBA player and is going to be one of the better two guards in the NBA in about 5 years, he hit a ballsy shot to tie it up.
Oh, yeah.
With that three at the top of the key with 7 seconds left. And
then how about
– and they executed.
How about the Wisconsin game? That was
Yoza hitting that last second shot. Oh my God!
It was two last second shots. Back
Wisconsin
and forth.
Takes it overtime, and then Chiozza wins it for Florida.
Again, 2 great games, and I won't remember. You hit me 2 days from now, I probably won't even be able to name one of the players.
Yeah.
And growing up, I could tell you players for teams I didn't like at all, but I knew them all. And I don't know if it's as I get older, I just don't care as much, or that the game has changed a lot. I think it's a little bit of both, because we're talking about that. I'm on the side that I don't feel college athletes should ever be paid, period. And I had to explain, I talked long-winded about it, but, I'm a big sports guy. I grew up playing sports. I'm not some pencil neck geek who doesn't give a crap about sports. I coach athletes. I've worked with athletes. I used to play sports 9 months out of the year, organized. That was my schedule. Then I would practice 3 months out of the year during the summer to get ready for my 3 sports. So it's something that's been a part of my life almost all my life. So I don't come at this from, the big, cool athletes and I was the little geek, and nah, I was an athlete. I just don't feel that
you were just blessed with a 5'6" frame.
Exactly. There wasn't any pro scouts knocking down my door to go, but at my level, I could have played college sports at a small school and got a scholarship. Would that have changed my life? No. I was also an academic. I had good GPA, but no one in my family had ever gone to college, never graduated from college. I was the first kid to go, and I paid for it on my own. If I was smart, I probably would have went to a small school and tried to play college athletics, but I don't know. At that point in my life, even then, I was pretty beat up. Not being a bigger guy, I took a lot more punishment. I played football, baseball, basketball. As a guy my size, there was a lot of punishment. So I also could see the side of college athletes saying, hey, man, we're putting our body on the line because I get it. I get that. I suffer today from sports injuries big time. So I get kind of that side, but I also look at it as it's student athlete, not athlete student. And the fact that, yeah, the schools do make a lot of money, but not all of them. See, people get confused upon college athletics. They only see the big schools, the big money makers, the big 5. There's a heck of a lot more universities out there that far more universities lose money on athletic programs than make money on athletic programs. It's just that the big ones make a buttload of money on college athletics, and these kids come up and they're like, hey, I want to get paid. You guys just made, $1 million off selling my jersey last year or whatever. That's my jersey. And my attitude is, first you're a student, you're going to school for free. You're probably going to a school that you could never get into otherwise. And you're getting benefits, you're getting free stuff. But the downside is, now you can't really work. It's hard to have extra money. But again, the college owns that jersey. UCLA is not, ball UCLA. It's UCLA with ball on the back of the jersey, with his knucklehead dad. And I think that's what's happened is these kids today in athletics, I think they think they're more important than what they are. Because let's face it, when I was growing up, I remember when Kareem got the first $1 million contract in the NBA. I'm almost positive it was him. I'm almost 100% positive he was the first $1 million player. That was a big, big deal. There's guys that ride the pine that have never started or are going to play who will make more than Kareem Abdul-Jabbar probably made in his whole career.
That is true.
Kid you not. I think these guys, and it's part of society. We start talking about that too, that it's a societal problem. That instead of education, it's more of we've created these corrupt bureaucracies that now just so happen to be college athletics and the university system. University system is far different than when I went through, and I've gone through, and I've also been on I teach now, so I see it from both sides. But I cannot see a rational reason for playing college athletes because there's no fair way to make it work.
And like you said, there's no fair way to make it work. But the fact that these kids can't have a job and they're kind of restricted on what they can do,
yeah,
I just don't see how that there can be nothing really, because yeah, they do get room and board, they do get all that stuff, but they still have lives outside of it. And if they can't go out, I know you could eat dinner for free at the dorms, but I didn't want to eat at the barracks every night. I didn't want to eat when I was in the military. I didn't want to eat at the chow hall every night. I wanted to go out every once in a while. And luckily I was paid so I could do that. These athletes, some of them are forced to do that because they don't, their parents don't have any money. They're not getting a stipend or anything like that. So they're stuck just living on, I think it's almost like they're sequestered there. If you want to have a life outside, you're just kind of screwed. So I think,
but it's kind of part of the deal. You know what you're getting yourself into when you sign that scholarship. I think my problem with it is it would be like me being in the military, signing my contract, and then coming back and going, you know what, guys, I think that was kind of unfair. Really? How funny that would be? They would laugh me right out of there. But the thing is, when I went in, I knew what I was getting myself into. Not all of it. Don't get me wrong. There's all that fine print that was my responsibility to read that I didn't because I was a young kid.
Well, it's because you were sitting in a room and they were standing over you trying to get you out of there,
But I would argue that these kids, even in college, if you were to put in all the things that they're getting out of that university, would have been far more than what me and you were getting paid in the military, as I was an E3 when I went in. Come on. I kind of look at it from a different angle because I guess I got a little bit of a chip on my shoulder because no one ever handed me anything. And then they'll go, well, Gary, you weren't so great an athlete. You don't know. You weren't getting recruited by the big school. Well, no, that doesn't have anything to do with it. It's about you're there to go to college. You're there to get an education. Now, can we argue that our education system is broken and a complete mess? Yes, we can argue that point all day long too. I believe that these kids should be redshirted. We talked about that the last one. Man, we had some good stuff. I firmly believe in the John Wooden rule. No kid, even anyone who remembers John Wooden, we're aging ourselves now. But I don't think any 20-year-olds, maybe they're watching this, who knows, or listening to this. John Wooden, it didn't matter how good you were. Bill Walton got redshirted.
But that was the rule. That was
the rule. Was it the NCAA rule? I thought it was his rule. Even after they changed it, though, I thought he even kept it.
I don't know if he kept it or not, but I know that it was an NCAA rule. And if he kept it, that might have been.
I believe he kept it. From what I remember is even after they said you didn't have to redshirt them, I believe he kept it. And it didn't matter. And I know the freshmen were treated far differently under Wooden than they would be today. You were dirt. You were like the recruit in boot camp. You mean nothing to me, son. And I firmly believe that. I think that if the NCAA was truly concerned about academics and the student athlete, they would say 17, 18 years old, I didn't know anything. I couldn't control myself, period. First time away from your family. You're on your own. You're in this, for me, the school was like 15 times larger than my town that I grew up in. And I don't think some of these athletes are any different. You go there and you're thrown into this mix. You're playing, a sport, and you're 17, 18 years old, and you're expected to get your academics in order, get your life in order, figure out how to do things on your own, deal without your family, or whatever. It's too much. I think you need a year to acclimate.
But isn't that the NCAA's fault for allowing schools to have, like Kentucky, the one and done process? Kentucky and Duke are the two schools that perfect it. And you know what I like about the difference between Cal and Coach K? Cal's honest about it. He said, I'm getting you ready to go make your millions. K kind of plays it a different way, but Cal, at least he's open about it. He doesn't try to hide it. He's not trying to push him out the door, but
Coach Cal, I don't think he's met an academic he's ever liked. Not a fan. I'm not a fan of Cal at all. He reminds me of Huggins. They kind of, when Cal was at Memphis, when Huggins was at Cincinnati. And I'll tell you what, you want to talk about two programs run amok that just got hit with all kinds of sanctions after those two knuckleheads left. And remember me talking about that. You didn't know how many players that Huggins had graduated at the University of Cincinnati. You're all, it wasn't very many. And I had the zero up. He may be the only coach in NCAA history to not graduate one player from his program the entire time he coached there. And it wasn't like he was just there for a year. He was there for a while. And to allow that to happen in any major institution, to me, is a crime. The fact that the University of Cincinnati kind of batted a blind eye to that is unacceptable. I mean, you can't be pushing out college athletes and none of them graduate. Not one in your program. To me, that just kind of says what you're all about. But again, even though as corrupt as the system is, it is broken. You're a college athlete that is getting into a school, like I said, that you probably couldn't get into on your own. You're getting to go for free. You're getting to eat for free. Heck, I didn't mention this on the last one. They get all preferential treatment for classes. These guys gals can get all the classes they want. They don't register with me and you. They have their own registration. They get to handpick. They have tutors.
That's the thing. That's
for free. They are getting tens of thousands of dollars of extras thrown on top of their top-notch education that they can get. My attitude is, hey, dude and girls, suck it up. You know what? You know what you're getting yourself into. If you're so good and you're so talented, don't go to college. You got a choice. This is a free country still, even though some people argue that it maybe not so much anymore. But you don't have to go to college. If you're so talented and so great, you could stick it out until you're 21 and go play. Because if I don't remember the rules now for the NBA, but in pro football, if you're 21, correct, or 3 years of college football, I believe that's how it works. Mm-hmm. You could go play pro. Now, they used to have the guys, I think, what was it? Dawkins was the first one to just go from high school to pros, right?
Was it? Yeah.
Daryl Dawkins.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember if he was was it him or Moses Malone?
Maybe it was Moses Malone. I can't remember. It was one of those two I thought were the first ones, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But Kobe Bryant did it. You went from high school to college. Well, then, everyone, as the game started to change and as these kids were coming into the NBA had a lot of problems with them because you got 18-year-olds with grown men on the road with a lot of money. Now, you tell me that isn't a recipe for disaster. I don't care how mature you are as an 18-year-old. You give me, as an 18-year-old, millions of dollars, a sneaker deal. You put me on the road with women trying to break into my hotel I'm staying at. There's gonna be a lot of problems. unless you're the most perfect human being to ever come out, I don't know how that – I'm surprised they didn't have more problems. They probably did. We just
They probably did. Twitter. Imagine if Twitter and Instagram and Snapchat were out there then.
Well, and I bet you that's why they started evolving towards the policy they have now. But I thought it was a joke. They go, well, now they've got to play 1 year. And I went, what kind of crap is that? I firmly believe that if you're going to make a commitment to a university, you got to give it time. And not only that, as a sports fan, I think the game has eroded terribly on the basketball end. I would put the 80s Lakers, Celtics, Detroit Pistons against these teams today. And I'll tell you what, these guys would crush them. Those old guys were, not only were they sly, but they were mean and they were good. I mean, I've watched the old time games, like the 80s when I grew up.
Pistons games.
The skill level. Everyone says now that athletically they're better. I disagree. I don't know. I grew up with, Dr. J, and so did you. Dr. J was Michael Jordan before Michael Jordan was Michael Jordan. I mean, Dr. J was a pretty amazing athlete. His problem was he didn't have the jump shot that Jordan had later on in life. But I'll tell you what, Dr. J pretty much had everything else. If he would have worked on his shot more, I grew up with
well, they didn't, and they weren't going to work on their shot back then.
Yeah.
Back then you were just good, and there wasn't as many teams for one thing, so you didn't have it all spread out. They were all centralized. The best players were teams were better because they were all centralized on teams. So,
well, the superstars you think of the teams back then, you had Magic Johnson, Kareem, Byron Scott, Michael Cooper, James Worthy. That was the starting five. You're coming off the bench. You had Kurt Rambis. You had Michael Thompson. Who else was coming off the bench? God. I'm trying to
Curry
think.
Or Dale Harris.
AC Green.
AC Green, yeah.
Are you kidding me? I mean, you throw those guys out there against LeBron. LeBron would look like a boy amongst men with the Cavaliers.
I think LeBron would be a bad one though to compare against, because he was a man child at 18.
Yeah, but the thing is, I believe from the team concept and what you see, they would frustrate LeBron to where mentally I think they could break him down. Because I remember those games. They were just as much physical as mental. The mental warfare that went on in those old-time games, Lambeer was one of the most untalented basketball players I've ever seen. He would make other players come unglued. The guy would get them so far out of their game, it was unbelievable. And that's what I mean. If you watch the matchups of Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, oh my God. The stuff that was going on there, I think most of the players today would crumble. I think they would literally cry and walk off the court because they were being so mean to them. It was a different game. And
a different game.
And I think the fundamentals are night and day. I watched games of James Worthy, and I go, God, James Worthy in his prime, I don't think anyone could stop him in the NBA today. I think he would literally be unstoppable. And he wasn't one of the premier, probably 10 players. He might have been at his heyday. But if you were to put some of those players in today, I just don't think it would be the same. The defense is worse. The shooting percentages are worse. And college is really hard for me to watch. Because we grew up, there wasn't a three-point line. You could spread it out. You could play four corners. I remember four corners being played. It was like watching paint dry, but there was so much more strategy involved. And not only that, but you knew what you were going to face. There was programs. Like you knew you were going to get that coach for 10 years. You knew you were going to get that player more likely for 4 years. It was just a different deal. And those guys weren't making a lot of money. And I don't remember them crying about, I need to be paid in college. I just never heard it. And for me, like I said, it's hard for me to swallow as someone who had to put themselves through school, pay for everything on their own, get scholarships, bust their ass, and get the academics to get in there and get it done. And not to say, because I work with athletes and they've come to me, I've heard the stories, man. College athletics is a mill. They eat these kids alive. A lot of them come out with horrific injuries. They walk away, they don't get anything, but that's life. We got people in the military who, sacrifice their life and don't get a thing out of it. And they don't get to go back to the military. And, they get their life insurance, and there's groups outside organizations that take care of them. You guys want to go watch our last, our episode 7 with Darren Isham, a former Navy SEAL friend of mine, talk about charities and organizations that help out the soldiers, but they're not making millions of dollars, So I guess from that background, I guess I'm a little harder edged and don't feel so sorry for these athletes, and a little rougher, but I just think it would ruin college athletics too. Not that I just don't think they deserve it. It's not just that. It's just there would be no equality.
Yeah, even if you said, all right, we're going to cap this out at $20,000. You can pay your players $20,000 or whatever. Well, you can do that at UK. You can do that at Alabama. You can do that at Texas. You can do that at UCLA. But you can't do that at Mountain State University, or any school like that. So, I mean, there's going to be a big difference. So how would you do it fairly? That's the question. Is if you decided you were going to help these athletes out, how could you do it fairly where everybody benefited? Because like you said in the first one, the Big Five's not going to give up their money.
No, just look at the BCS.
Here's $20 million. Let's give that to the Mountain West.
That's how the BCS was developed, out of pure greed and corruption. As a Mountain West guy, like I said, I don't understand how Boise State hasn't won that lawsuit, how you can exclude certain universities and conferences from participating freely for the chance to win a national championship. Are we still in America? That sounds like a Russian or Chinese sports program to me. I mean, that to me is ludicrous. And by doing that, the monopoly placed upon it, it turns the college athletics into a monopoly on the BCS side, because now those schools have all the money, they have all the TV rights, which means they're going to attract all the good players. They're going to be able to, it changes kind of the way it works. But what I've liked is it's kind of put a chip on the shoulder of the mid-majors and the smaller conferences, and they come out and they play with a bad attitude. But those schools, even though they've said, oh, we'll give you an opportunity, they always screw them. I brought out that Utah example when I thought Utah could have won the national championship that year, but they never gave them a shot. They beat, I can't remember, out of conference, I think they beat Texas A&M and someone else, good schools, and beat them down. I mean, crushed them. And they just gave them a horrible bowl game.
And if they could have given them a good bowl game, they had Urban Meyer as coach, then that Urban Meyer might not have jumped to Florida.
That's exactly it.
So I mean, if you had made it more fair, then you're going to keep those coaches in those areas, and then the money is going to start flowing to those conferences and things like that. But I think they've got such a the Big Five's got such a lockdown. They don't want that to happen.
Well, and they would have to agree to pay athletes. The big conferences would have to say, we're willing to revenue share. So we're going to spread out evenly, because what the big topic that people miss in this is it's just not the big schools that exist in college athletics.
And it's not just the big sports.
Big sports.
You're going to have to pay the swimmers and the divers and the golfers and everything else.
Lacrosse. I mean, there's everything.
Or they're going to make everything club sports if you don't.
Yeah, and then you get in with everyone's so happy today. You're going to have a bunch of lawsuits. There's going to be a huge bunch of problems. But not only that, but you don't have just Division I athletics. You can't just say, now we're only playing Division I athletes. We're only going to pay them. Now you cause a whole host of other issues, because now you got other players in other lower divisions that are not playing major Division I who are going to be going, well, why am I not getting paid? I'm putting the same risk. Athletically, I can be hurt just as bad as that guy in Alabama. There's no difference. And you would have to figure something out to make it fair. And I know the NCAA, fair is not their deal. It's all about money. And it's turned that way. And let's say you decide, hey, let's just say you decide, we're going to give a kid 20, 30 grand as an 18-year-old to go play sports. You don't think you're going to have any problems? You give me 20, 30 grand and I'm getting everything paid for, and I'm on a college campus where I'm a big deal. I'm gonna be a jackass. I guarantee it. I'm gonna be getting more tattoos than they already get already. I'm gonna be buying, kegs. I mean, I don't care, again, who you are. Unless you're a perfect human being, that is too many bad outside influences.
With very little supervision.
Very little supervision. And the coaches today in the NCAA have proven that they could give a rat's ass about the players for the most part and controlling them.
And just look at U of L, University of Louisville. They get busted for having stripper parties for recruits in the dorms where they're actually paying women to sleep with recruits. That all comes out, and the NCAA so far has just given them a couple of notice of allegations and a slap on the wrist. Said, you can set out 1 year. Patino hasn't gotten anything done to him. He said he didn't know about it. So, okay, you didn't know about it. That's fine. The allegation said that there's no way you couldn't know about it. So they're probably going to end up suspending him for 10 games. So what's hurt there?
Well, and we talked about that too, about the actual the collusion between the NCAA and the actual colleges, the academic side. There is definitely collusion between the two. Because let's face it, there's been universities, we brought up SMU last time. God, we had some good stuff. Man, killing me. But SMU got the death penalty. I mean, I was a teenager when this happened, and I remember I was like, whoa, man. That university was done.
3 years of no football.
Zero. No. I think they lost their athletic program, period. If I remember right.
I can't remember.
I thought they lost everything. It was probably the most severe penalties ever handed down to a college university. Well, and you look at Miami. I mean, Miami about every other year is in some kind of scandal. It seems like they've been in a lot of scandals. But the ones that they got into with all the prostitutes and cocaine and drug dealers, and it had everything in it. Agents, you name it, boosters, everyone had huge parties. It was literally just mayhem there. And the fact that school got to walk away with a sports program was mind-boggling to me, because that wasn't their first rodeo. Then they got caught again, like 10 years later, I think. They got caught again. If they were serious that this is about student athletics, they would flat out, and I would totally agree. This is just, I guess I'm a hard ass. I would say, you're done. Your athletic program is done. You cannot control your boosters. You cannot control your athletes. You cannot control your coaches. You're done. You don't need a program. You're an academic institution. Sports, so what? Later. Go out and educate people. But we're not serious. So we let that shit fly. And if you were a normal citizen participating in those same events that are going on in college athletics, I would be rotting in a prison cell, more than likely. If I did that as a normal human being, going to work and got caught doing the same thing, my life would not go well at all. And it would be permanently altered. And that's where I blame, it's both sides. And see, the athletes, they're kids. I get it. But you got to have at least a little moral compass thrown in there, a little bit. But again, if you redshirted them, and if it was about academics, you would be putting them through, like we were talking about before, they would be learning financial responsibility, how to open a bank account. Because a lot of these kids from the inner city, they never had a bank account. They don't know. Heck, I barely had a bank account. I didn't know how to manage money. I went to college. I kid you not. All my money for college that first semester, plastic jar. It was a plastic jar of change.
And it was gone fast.
It went pretty quick. And it was all my money from working. I started working at 13. It was all my money from working in restaurants, tips, after buying my own car. It's what I had left over. I remember I had $550. I thought I was rich. I remember going, I'm like, woo, I'm here. I got all this cash. It lasted me barely the first semester. And I didn't work that first semester, but I quickly got a job because I was broke. And I had to put myself through. But I get the athletes can't work. So why don't we put in a work program? I was talking about charitable organizations. I mean, if this is about doing the right thing, well, how about we have these kids go help out at a soup kitchen? How about we go help out with some disabled vets? How about we help with the elderly? I mean, what are we doing here? I mean, this is pretty basic shit. And instead we're like, no, let's just pay them. Let's just give them money and let them go. Let them go out and buy a BMW. Go get more tattoos. That makes sense. Again, we've lost our way in this. We should be teaching these kids how to be better citizens. And I love the coaches who have come along over the years, because you can tell the coaches, you meet a former John Wooden player, they're pretty squared away. And they love that guy. Yeah. I mean, they absolutely
love massive respect for Wooden and what he did.
Even Valvano, as he had a crew of miscreants that he used to bring in. Those players loved him, and I think that's what it's about. It's about making better human beings. If these kids don't have direction and you can't get them through college, and we've seen it. We've seen these pro athletes, they get out there, they didn't make it through college. They've got a bunch of money. They get caught running dope with their buddies, and they're making millions. And you're like, what? Did we just not teach these guys anything? And with that, we give them chances. You gave the example of, we were talking about Bruce Jenner. Mm-hmm. The responsibility. We've lost all personal responsibility. Bruce Jenner or Jacqueline or Caitlyn or what, I don't even know. I don't care. Rear end someone, texting, kills him because he was Bruce Jenner, former Olympian. Nah. Just goes off. No problem. Lives his life. No big deal. Yeah, and you said, I didn't.
Sport person of the year.
I forgot about that. Became sport. And you use the example of, that's like the NFL making Ray Lewis after his whole ordeal, murder, allegedly. Anyone who remembers that crap, how Ray Lewis remained in the NFL to this day, I have absolutely no idea. None. But again, we let our athletes get away with crap like, and it's no different. Our politicians, billionaire businessmen, they get, money rules all. But again, student, athlete. That's my definition. That's what I'm sticking with. We don't go and the example I gave at the end, I thought, because we were going long, to wrap it up, just to put it in perspective of how someone who's on the other side of me, and I'm open, don't get me wrong, I don't think it's a horrible idea to pay athletes. I just don't think you can work it to where it would work equitably and work rationally. You would end up with, again, the haves and have-nots is what you would end up with. It would be very unfair. And not only that, but like I said, I don't think you need to be giving kids money like that with no supervision.
But what one of the things I was talking about is, we want to teach them the financial responsibility, and how are they going to learn financial responsibility if they have nothing? So my thing was, if you gave them $100 a month or whatever, at least they would learn how to be responsible for that money and learn to keep it for the next month.
When I was at San Diego State, they did get money. I knew the athletes. I knew those guys, and I hung around with them. They got, I want to say...
Did they get per diem?
They did. They got, and also that they got money to do laundry and stuff like that. It was a couple $100 a month, $200-300 a month. It wasn't a lot, but they did get something. And I don't know anymore. That's the thing. I don't know what these athletes get anymore. And the facilities have changed so much. The kid that went to Purdue, they had their own dining. I mean, the food they ate was different than the other students. They had their, like I said, everything was totally different. They had their own dorms. Everything was separated. They had their own workout room. So it's kind of hard to even put a money value. I think these kids are getting a heck of a lot of extras anyway. But I disagree with them being not allowed to have a job or work. I would think you would want them to get that work experience if at all possible. But don't get me wrong.
But like I said, whenever you give them a job, they get that summer job where they show up, they give them a desk, they sit down at the desk and say, look at this computer, and at the end of the day, open up that drawer. And when they get done looking at the computer all day, they open up that drawer and there's $10,000 in there. They just grab it and walk out. And that's the last time they show up to that. That's one of the reasons they stopped even letting them have jobs, is because that stuff was going on.
Well, the boosters were giving them the jobs.
Yeah.
They were all booster jobs, making a lot of money, and all the boosters owned dealerships. Somehow these kids all ended up with brand new cars.
Yeah.
I remember Marshall Falk driving around. He was at San Diego State when I went to San Diego State. He was driving on campus with a BMW. And I remember going, wasn't he from a real poor part of New Orleans? I mean, he drove right up to the class. He was on campus driving, like where you weren't allowed to drive, even ride bikes. And I remember thinking, going, I don't know about that. That doesn't seem right to me. And that was a small school. I mean, athletically at that point, we weren't a major powerhouse or anything. So I could only imagine what some of these big time athletes have gotten over the years. And I've heard it, but as soon as these athletes come out and talk about it, they're ostracized immediately by the college they played for, by the NBA or NFL turns a blind major. They go, nah, we don't want to hear any of that, because they're involved too, because the college is the minor leagues for pro sports. That's what it is. So of course there's money going back and forth, no matter how you shake it. And I know the O'Bannon brothers sued UCLA because they made a bunch of money off their jerseys, and I thought that was BS.
And they won the lawsuit with EA Sports.
They won for their likeness. They won, and yeah, I get that. But I don't think
that's a little bit different.
That's a little bit different. But when the Northwestern, they were going after, what was it?
Well, they were unionizing.
And they didn't want the college to make any money off their jerseys, if I remember right. Wasn't that part of the stipulation?
I'm not 100%. I just know about the unionizing part of it.
And Northwestern is a pretty top-notch academic school. So those were smart kids. Trust me on that one. But even with that, I get their point, but I don't. It's one of those of, you know what you're getting yourself into. You're going to go, if you're not going to college to go to college, if you're going to go to play sports, you've already got everything screwed up inside your head. You're going about it all wrong. My attitude is, if you're going to college to play sports and play sports only, why don't you go do something else? Sit it out if you're so talented, so great. Just wait till you're eligible age-wise and go try out for the NBA. Go try and walk on a football team. Oh, that's right, because you probably won't make it. And I see their side, that there tends to be some discrimination against that. That if you try to do that, you might get blackballed a little bit. They'll be like, well, he didn't go and play by the rules. Maybe we don't, it's tricky. But again, unless you could figure out an equitable way to make everyone paid, you got to pay, like we said, the lacrosse, the cheerleaders. And then you go, well, wait, is cheerleading a sport? Is it not a sport? Is golf a sport? Is it not a sport?
That's what I'm saying. You're going to get to a point where where the universities just start making these club sports.
Yeah.
You're going to pay your football team. You're going to pay your basketball team, your women's basketball team, maybe your baseball team, or whatever. A lot of schools are going to have 4 good sports, and they might be different sports. But then everybody else, we're just going to make you all club teams, And now, they quit getting money, and because the football team pretty much pays all the programs at every college. So now that's gone, where they just start saying, all right, we're just going to worry about the 4 big sports, and then the other sports become club sports, and then you just lose those.
Well, the example I gave, I thought was a pretty good example of, these kids need to realize that it's just not sport athletes that are going to college. You've got tens of thousands of other kids who are there as well, contributing to the university. They just think that they put themselves on a pedestal, and they think they're great because everyone's coddled them their whole lives and told them how great they were. And I like I said, I have a problem with athletes being role models. I'm on Charles Barkley's side. They're just knucklehead athletes, as far as I'm concerned. You're not changing the world. You're here to entertain me. So keep your mouth shut, play the sport, entertain me. That's what I want. That's what I pay for my ticket. I don't want to hear your political views. I don't want to see you on a knee during the pledge or during the national anthem. I don't want to see any of that shit. That's not your place. All you do is piss me off because you make a shitload of money and you act like a little bitch, as far as I'm concerned. Sorry, I had to get on my, that was Pumpernickel, Kemperneck or whatever. I call him Pumpernickel, that rockhead. They ask him, so what are you doing it for? Well, he didn't even know why he was doing it. He's such an idiot. But that's what I'm talking about. They've become disrespectful. Realize that you're just an athlete. That's it, buddy. I hate to break it to you. You're not curing cancer. You're not changing the world. You go out and you play an athletic event. So what? I don't see it. As a former athlete, I look at it that way. Athletics have a vital area in society. I totally believe in that because athletic competitions have been around since the start of modern humanity as we know it. It gets us ready for manhood, for womanhood, for, building tribal communities, cohesion. And it's what way we used to weed out the weak. There's a dominant alpha male who has to beat everyone else. There was competitions. It's all part of the human kind of makeup that's been going on for tens of thousands of years. So athletics are important, but they're not the only thing. You have to look at it as the academics, and having knowledge and being able to contribute in other ways is also important. And that was a long way to get to my example, in a huge circle there. But the example I gave is such as a school known for their physics or science department, or maybe their computer or their robotics department. A lot of brilliant inventions have been created in university labs and think tanks. So let's say I'm a student and, I'm a brilliant. I'm just knockout smart. I help create something that changes the world. Maybe we help create the first true artificial intelligence robot. Say we do that. You think that that's gonna far change the world compared to LeBron James. I guarantee it. LeBron James will be long gone and dead, and the invention I was a part of will still be going. You know what I mean? I could never go back and say, hey, the university made a ton of money off this. Actually, people involved in the university took my idea and patented it and became billionaires. I want my cut. The university would tell, go screw yourself. Go get out of here. What are you talking about?
You signed on the dotted line.
You signed on the dotted line, buddy. We gave you academic scholarship. We paid your way. You signed that form. You don't own the rights to any of that. That's the university. You did that in the university lab. Why do you think all great inventions that were invented outside of the university were invented in garages? Well, because that's where they had to invent them. They didn't go invent them at the college. I mean, a perfect example of that, heck, is Facebook. Mm-hmm. Didn't Zuckerberg get in a lot of hot water with, he went to Princeton, right?
No, I think one of those, Harvard.
Ivy League school, I can't remember. But didn't he get even, because he created, there was, I think at one point.
He created in the dorm on their.
on their network.
Yeah.
On their network. And that became a huge case far as intellectual property. Who owned the rights to it?
Yeah.
And he ended up
Bill Gates, who created his in a garage and somewhere in California.
Steve Jobs, same thing. Steve Jobs and Wozniak, they created it in I believe it was either Wozniak's garage. Yeah, I mean, you got to look at it that way. I mean, how fair is that? Life is unfair, guys. That's why I say, suck it up. Quit crying and pissing and moaning that you need to be paid as a college athlete. Go out and play the sports, play it hard, and your plan should be to get an education and to figure out how you're going to take that education and parlay it into something in life. That sports, the best thing you can get out of that sports career, if you're lucky, I mean really, really lucky, and you turn pro and you can make a good living off it, which is a small fraction of a percentage of college athletes. If you look at the totality of college athletes in all sports, I would like to see the number on that. I know major college sports, it's like they say 1%. I've heard that thrown around. I bet you it's 1% of 1% of 1% if you were to throw out all the numbers out there. And I'm talking making a good living, something substantial.
But an academic degree
is forever.
Life.
It's forever. So, and once you get out, say you're the top of your game, you're playing for the NFL, in the NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, your career is going to more likely be done in your 20s. I would say 90%, if not more, of the athletes' careers are done in their 20s. Average lifespan, I think, is 3-4 years.
3 years and maybe the NFL.
Yeah, NFL is the lowest. So now you're in your 20s. You didn't learn shit in school. You were coddled. You cried all the time that everything was unfair. And now you're out of your career, and what are you going to do?
And you've blown all the money that you were given. Because
blew all your money.
It was going to keep coming for the next 10 years.
And we could say that you are a part of the system. We could say that, but that's a cop-out. You're a human being. You got to be smart enough to figure out what the hell you're doing. And at some point, reality's got to hit you. And you got to take responsibility and go, what am I going to do now? I've got 50 years of life to live. I didn't get my degree. I didn't do shit with my life. I acted like a jackass. Now what? I'm not saying that's all. I'm not saying that. There's a lot of pro athletes who are upstanding citizens and do a lot. But generally, if you see the guys who go through and get guys and girls who get their college degree, they focus in on something that they know they can do in life. They actually do really, really well. Mm-hmm. Really well. And I think that's the thing. I can't see paying these guys in college athletics. And then again, we talked about, where do you stop?
Yeah, it's a slippery slope.
Now you got to, if you got junior college programs, which there's a lot of feeders in the U.S. that feed major universities, well, now do you got to pay the junior college athletes too? Well, heck, you got high schoolers now that, they're seniors and they're already being, do you need to pay them? Where does it stop? If you start paying college athletes, I think you just open up Pandora's box. You ruin college athletics. It becomes even more corrupt than what it is already. Then they're going to complain that you're not paying me enough. I want to see the university stat sheets. I want to see their ledgers. I want to see how much they're making off my sport. Why am I not getting, you know what I mean? It will be perpetual. It will go and go and go. And I get their point that some of these colleges are making a ton of money. But that's the college. Learn a lesson from that. Go, hey, I want to be just like, run a business. You can be the boss. You can make the decisions. You can be the college. I just don't see a right way to do it. I don't.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the $1 million question, is how do you make that work? All right, dude,
we're done.
We have talked now for close to 2.5 hours.
Oh.
It's all your damn fault.
It is.
And we got to wrap this thing up. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. I hope you got some. I hope this was halfway. The other one, I'm telling you guys, the other one was probably the best podcast we've ever done. Hands down.
Hands down.
This one is second rate. So just remember that when you're listening to this, just think about how good the first one was, and just go from there.
Yep.
So, anyway, guys, check us out on our Twitter page, Old Dudes Podcast, at Old Dudes Podcast. Go to our YouTube page, check that out. We don't have a dedicated channel yet, so just search Old Dudes New Tricks. We've got some other things on there. Gary does some product reviews. I'm going to start going out and interviewing some people and getting some secondary stuff on there. So, we're building this, and we're going to give you guys good content. I promise you that. But
and we'll remember to record it. See I see the record button. I
do. I see it's saying record this
in the screen. Hey, you got to cut us some slack. We're amateurs here.
We're old dudes, man. We can't remember that shit.
Late at night,
Yeah. Old dudes and computers. Didn't work out quite well.
No. Where's my intern?
Exactly.
Recording this thing for me. But yeah, make sure to go check out our pages. My book here, still available, Going Off the Grid. Make sure you go read it. Give me great reviews, and also review us on iTunes. That's really important too. We're new. We're a new podcast, so go out there if you like us. Head out to iTunes and give us a good review.
Yeah, and hit us on the comment page. Go to Old Dudes New Trick and hit us on the comments page. Let us know what you want to hear. We think we're going in a certain direction. We've got a plan for this. We've planned this thing out for 3 years, and we're going to make it hopefully a good business for us and something that you guys will like. But let us know what you want. We are listening for topics, man. If we're not hitting the right demographic and you guys have something else you want to talk about, let us know. We'll find that person.
Or
We'll have a
an,
good time.
an interesting person to interview, because actually, believe it or not, I have been recommended to podcasts to be interviewed that I didn't even know about by people who had listened to me on another podcast and said, you got to interview this guy. This guy is right up your alley for that topic. And I've heard other people do that. And if you know someone who you think is a great fit for our podcast, because there's only 330 million people in the United States. So, obviously we can find them, no problem. Refer them to us. Shoot us an email, fill out the contact form, and hit us up and let us know that there's someone you think would be interesting to be on the show.
Yep. And we know you're listening. We see the downloads, so we know that you guys are listening. So once again, man, thanks for listening. I can't tell you how happy I am to see how this is going so far. And, make sure you check us out next week.
Alrighty. All right, man.
Later.